Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. The Greater Downey Association of Realtors is proud to bring you the Top Producer webinar series. Before introducing our speaker, I have some details to share about the webinar. Every participant is in listen-only mode. If you have a question, just please write it in the comment box on your screen at the right-hand side. I'm Andrew, DAOR's Director of Communications. Today's speaker is Luther Sanchez. Luther is a realtor at Century 21 All-Stars. Today's webinar is titled, The Fortune is in the Follow-Up. So without further ado, I introduce DAOR Realtor and Top Producer, Luther Sanchez.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Hello, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to come here and provide some value, and I hope some of you really take that away. Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've always wanted to just reach out to people when I started to just help me, and I'll never forget what somebody told me. There was an agent. I was at the C21 in Montebello, and they told me, hey, man, don't you know, after I was trying to ask them some questions, in this business, every man for himself. It's every man for himself, don't you know? Come on, stop asking everybody all these questions. And I thought if I ever get just taste a little success, I want to help people out and not really like have that same attitude. So through conversations with Jeanette, I want to get a little more involved with the board here and help everybody else out. So in the trajectory of those 20 years, I was very fortunate enough to survive a little downspill in the market, came back up, and in that little downspill, I call it the perfect storm. I'm not sure if that's like a come up. That perfect storm where everything hit. It was between a bankruptcy, a divorce, lost a lot of properties, lost a lot of money. All that stuff came in. Go to the perfect storm. Okay. And I learned a lot on the way up prior to that, on the way down, and on the way back up again. And I always ask people, well, if you could do it all over again, what would the difference be? Put both of us on there. And I wanted to just make sure that everybody treats their business like a business, okay? Where we're both on there. All right, so if you guys can take notes, just make sure that you structure everything and not only focus on now money, but always focus on later money. And that's what the follow-up is going to give you between leads, past clients, center of influences, stuff like that, okay? So let's take that one down.
Okay. You want to go to the next slide?
No, just put me on.
Okay, take you on.
Yeah, and I wanted to make this a little interactive. So as I go, don't be shy and not ask questions or wait till the end. Let's go ahead and get whatever questions you guys might have, so I can answer them, and I'll be more than happy to interject. Okay. Now I wanted to focus on why agents don't really like just come in and prospect. It carries over into prospecting, but the follow-up. It's because we don't know what to say, and it just mind boggles me. I'll walk, you know, in the office. I'm part of a very big office where I'll just go in and be like, hey, here's an objection for you. And it's always fun. It should be fun to us so we can know what to say. It's practice for when it's showtime and we're in front of clients, right? So I was surprised to see a couple of studies that Zillow did and a couple of other organizations did, and on how hard it is for agents to follow up. And when I ask them, why don't you follow up? Sometimes we don't know what to say. I haven't known what to say. There was a big part of my career where I didn't follow up as much because I still don't. And part of that study was they did top producers, they did people that are new in the business, and everybody doesn't follow up, especially after the first like 2 attempts. And after the 2 attempts, a lot of business is done after that. But the majority of the business is done between the 8th and the 10th attempt. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
I was very surprised to see that. So I thought, let me focus on that, so that in the next one, when I don't know what to say and I'm tested, I'm going to have the confidence. I'm going to develop it on that one. Can they see both of us?
Yeah, they can see both.
Okay. All right, go to the next one. And we all act when we're practicing, when we're doing something like that. Like if we're in front of the Shark Tank interview process and we get really nervous. But if we would just practice a little more role play at our office, we have role play every single day, so that when it's showtime, we know what to say. And there's people that are in the business for 20, 30 years that we just don't know our scripts. And scripts, it's just, we just get a direction to where the conversation should go. It doesn't necessarily have to be Matthew Ferries or Mike Ferries or somebody in particular. It could be anything that you want. Just get some scripts down so you can have direction in what you're doing. So I always focus on contributing. Let's go to the next. Oh, here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be coordinating the slides over here myself.
Okay.
So even in a downward market, what I learned in the downward market is that always be bringing value to your clients. There's no such thing as bad leads, as, hey, there's nothing I can do regardless of the market. It's going up, it's going down. There's people that know how to make money in this business in a downward and upward market, okay? If it's going down, then make sure you give all your clients, not that we do modifications, but give them direction as far as where to go to save their homes. There's organizations that provide free mods, but just, I was always as a backup, like, hey, they would call me to know exactly what are my options, what am I supposed to do, and then be that top of mind person that they can go to and that they trust. That's very important, okay? So one of the things that always stood out to me was that movie Glengarry Glen Ross, and I'm sure a lot of the veterans in the business saw that movie, and it's one that talks about some leads that were never, ever, they were just leads, and some people says there's nothing in those leads, and others, they were treating them like they were gold, and Alec Baldwin would just say, hey, you know what? The leads aren't weak, you're weak. But if we approach, sometimes, I mean, I get people, it's like, how did you make that sale? How did you get that lead or that transaction? Well, I was just doing just listed calls, just sold calls. It's just regular numbers, and they get those deals. But yet other people are looking for the secret, like the shortcut, right? We got to be careful of that. And if you treat your business, I always focus on work like a hunter and also work like a farmer, so that you'll have money, today money, and then future money, all right? And the size of your, as you do things like a farmer, you're building, cultivating, nurturing your database, and that's the piece I want to talk about being a farmer, but also get the cold business and stuff that's on the table right now, all right? Let's go to the next one.
Oh, so I got a question.
You have a question.
So in a way, you're saying to be both like a farmer and a hunter.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, all right. If anybody has questions, just feel free to type them out, okay? Now, all right, one of the things that I always like to do is put my vision board in front of me. There's income properties on there. There's places I want to travel to, my family, everything on there that really, really makes a difference when I'm following up and when I'm making those calls, feeling like this guy, excuse the Shutterstock photos there, but knowing that I got to nurture and cultivate my database, those are the pictures that really propel me and really give me the energy I need, besides the coffee, to do what I have to do that a lot of us don't want to do, okay? And one of the things that I focus on is being a sharpshooter and not going after just any business. I like going deep and not so wide with my database, because it's not the number of people in your database, it's your relationship to your database. And one of the things, well, actually several things that I do with the database, let's go to the next one. No, not that. We'll get to I Love Lucy right now. So when I go on Facebook, I have a lot of my past clients, center of influence, and people that I want to do business with in certain categories, and I focus on them. And whether they're birthdays, weddings, graduations, or something that you see that's a goal, something's going on in their life, you want to make sure and you send them a congratulatory card. It could be to their little kids. Take that off.
You want to take your webcam off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now go to the next one.
Okay.
And it could be their kids. It could be something that, I mean, if somebody does something for your baby or for your kid and sends them a card, you're going to be very grateful for it, right? So they're not going to forget that. And if you continue to do that and nurture the relationship, it's got to be sincere, though. Go to the one before that. Before that. So it's got to be. Sorry, the slideshow isn't adding up here, but we'll go with it. So if you do stuff like that, then that's what I talk about, nurturing the database, okay? And if there's different systems that you use, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there's all these social media sites, but I was taking a toll in my office as far as what everybody uses. And they're from spreadsheets to Top Producer to Purple Dot. There's all these different systems. And the one that's best is the one that you use. And that's it. Let's not make it so complicated in following up. There's got to be a system in which when you meet somebody and they tell you that they're going to be ready in 3 months, in 1.5 months, you're following up, but that system is alerting you and telling you, hey, this person Meanwhile, that month and a half, you showed them value and you gave them stuff. You're supposed to call them and say, hey, I just wanted to make sure we were in track. We were in track to get what we needed to go. Okay? Go to the one before that. All right. Most people, I notice, don't fail because they're not talented. They're just going out there and hustling, and it's because they're not as disciplined as the way they should. Let me know if we have any questions. So definitely in regards to this slide, don't judge each harvest by the...
Yeah, sure. So let's take a little moment just to check if we have any questions.
All right. I think we have a little bit of interference there.
Yeah, let's check the questions real quick. So what does a hunter and a farmer translate into in actual practice?
Somebody was asking?
Yeah.
All right. So a hunter being, there's a hunter's going after cold doors, cold calls, and we're hunting, we're doing the daily hunt for the day. And a farmer is you're working on your database, you're focused on your past clients, you're doing the things you need to do to cultivate, nurture, and grow your database, and also bring value to them. That's what we have to do, continuously bring value. Let them know about their property values. There's just somebody that I was talking to in regards to how can I make your life easier? What in regards to your home, your real estate needs, or anything else can I help you? He wanted to talk about going from a 30-year loan to a 15-year loan. How do I pay off my mortgage faster? Okay, I was able to bring them value to that. But it's asking them those questions and bringing them the value. And you know, it could be removing mortgage insurance, stuff like that. I'm cultivating and nurturing my database and bringing them value. Now that I'm working like a farmer, but don't forget the daily tasks, because a property that I just listed, the next door neighbors, they ended up putting it up for sale, putting their home up for sale, and I just didn't door knock my own listing, and somebody else did, and they out hustled me. I'm not working like a hunter, focused on working like a farmer over here, but if you do both, you're gonna win. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, we got another question.
Yeah.
Just a simple question.
Yeah.
What is your production this year so far?
So far, I believe I'm at 260,000 GCI on sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we got another question. What CRM tool do you use to keep track of your clients?
I use Top Producer. I'm not the best at it, but I've gotten better in the last like 6 months. And it's a process. You have to just realize all the things that you have to create and customize it to what you want it to do. But what I love about Top Producer is that it does transaction management as well. So all my people that I had in all these years that I was doing it, I just used Google and alerts and the little badges on my phone to set up these alerts that would remind me to call these people on their birthdays, on home anniversaries, anything like that. And I transferred everything, which it was just like so time consuming to set everything up on Top Producer. Now there's people that do all that with a bunch of other systems, but Top Producer gives me like everything at once, and it tells me, hey, here's a campaign. If somebody wants to sell a home and they tell me in about 8 months, and I can't close them right now, or I can show them why we should get started now, in the 8-month program, there has to be a campaign in which I'm bringing them value, getting them ready to sell the home. I create those campaigns. If somebody wants to buy or vice versa, anything like that, I create those campaigns. And those campaigns are call reminders, text reminders, and everybody's on a campaign. If not, then they get lost in the sea of contacts and you do nothing with them. We got to admit, we're quick to put stuff in our database, in our spreadsheet, and in anywhere. They could be 3x5 cards, but if the system isn't there to remind you and keep them in front of my face, I mean, it's happened to me, and it's happened to other Top Producer guys that I mastermind with, where, man, I forgot to call that guy who wanted to sell his home. How can you forget that? How can you forget that? It's like everybody, that's what they go for, the listings. Somebody tells you they want to sell, and you forget about it. Well, yeah, I just turned 41, and I'm starting to forget things a little more. So I need stuff like Top Producer, but hey, we all forget things, and it's just like, hey, don't get upset, don't get mad about it. Just go to your systems, improve on them, and say, how's this not going to happen to me again? Okay, I just had somebody that I sold the property to, and I have a closing, like a post-sale campaign, but there wasn't, hey, how did you like the neighborhood? You know, I saw that the property came up. One of my colleagues in my office told me, hey, didn't you just sell that home? They're selling it again. 2 months later. How does that happen? So I called them up. You know what? We moved in and we didn't like the neighbors. One of them's in a band, and these other guys, they just didn't like us. So we're gonna move. Well, how did you happen to pick the agent that you chose with? Well, we were looking at another property, and she, convinced us that she can help us with that property, another one she has, and she wanted to list our home. Well, I dropped the ball. How do I improve my systems? Into Top Producer, I put a little alert when I close the deal, call them and ask them how they like their neighbors, how they liked the neighborhood, okay? And that's how I improve on it. And there was a follow-up program, a follow-up plan that I applied to that person. The home expired because they didn't find another property, and now it's an appointment for me. But I stayed in touch with them, but I learned from it. So it's very important. Everything that I wanted to go over was to nurture, cultivate, and just go after your warm market in addition to your cold market. But you can't do it unless you have a system like this. If you guys want to focus on Top Producer and a couple more questions, I can tell you what I'm doing with Top Producer, but it could be anything. Keep that in mind. You're welcome to reach out to me after so I can maybe share some of the plans that I have with you. I'll be more than happy to. But if you're going to go Top Producer, you have to focus on the plans that you apply to these people. When somebody comes in, what's going to happen with them? There's got to be a 1-year, 5-year, 10-year plan that's going to be applied to the person. And what are you going to do with it? That the system is pretty much going to work and be working in the back end, sending them emails, reminding you to do certain things. Okay? Is there another question? I'm going to get some water.
Yeah, sure. So we do got another question. How many hours per day do you hunt, in a sense?
Hunt for sellers?
Yes.
Buyers?
Or another way I could say it is, how many hours per day are you a hunter versus a farmer?
I'll tell you when in the upswing of my career, when I was more disciplined, because right now I do investments, I do property management, I do sales. There's a lot of things I do that are, some flips. I coordinate some projects that are pretty heavy, so sometimes I got to pull away from the time I should be prospecting. But when I did that, I was very consistent, 3 hours a day. And it should be more because people that prospect 3 hours a day that don't have any appointments in the afternoon, you should jump back into the prospecting. Hunting, maybe you do the hunter thing in the morning and then the farmer thing. I do it the other way around. When I get to my office in the morning, I do some of the cultivating of the database that I know, things that are happening with all the people that I know and making sure I connect with them at that level. And then I move on to the other stuff. And there's people that do it backwards because, hey, those gazelles are up and running, and whoever gets those first, those expires, those just listed calls, it's very important. If that's your forte and that's what you go after, then you want to do it the other way around. You want to go out and hunt.
Okay.
Yeah.
We do have another question. Do you want to continue?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, some of these answer the stuff I'm going to talk about, so it's good.
Okay. How much is past clients versus new clients? We got one question from a viewer.
For myself, about 80% of my business is past clientele. Now, I focus a lot on the whole database, on past client center of influence. That's why it's like that for me. For somebody that's new, it should be all hunting. It should be all new business while you're building this up. You shouldn't, if you're new and you want to do that and start working like a farmer, then you're going to go after your family, your friends, and people that you want to do business with and start cultivating your database that way. So you can split it up that way, but eventually the goal for me is for it to be 100%. So if you want to talk about numbers, from about 650 people in the database, I want to get it to 1,000, because if you get 10% of business like you should, if you work it properly from your database, you're getting 100 deals a year. That's from the sales. And that's not so much my exit strategy, but maybe a little coasting that could be done on the sales when I get to that level. So that's the ultimate goal, to get 100% of business from my database so that I'm not having to do all these other things. You should not be doing the same thing 10, 15 years into the business that somebody that just started, even though you can, and there's business there, but that's kind of like the mindset that I have.
Okay. We do have another question. What type of prospecting gave you the best results when you started in the business?
Door knocking. I'm not even going to lie. I door knock, and I door knock a lot. And what I did is I aligned myself with somebody that was doing it really well, which is Tony and Isabel Hernandez, or Gutierrez, I mean. And we didn't do it in the safest neighborhood, but I had no other option. I wanted to emulate and do what they were doing, and I just I just got to work. So we would go to Kinko's, make 200 flyers, put my little business card over there. So it wasn't anything too sophisticated. And I went out, and we would go to South Central, door knock for 3 hours from 9 to 12, and then go to lunch and then come back to the office and do follow-up. That's all I learned how to do, and that just got me a very, very good database when I started working it well after a couple of years. So that was, everything works as long as you work it. It could be calls, it could be door knocking like that. And eventually I started moving eastward when I started selecting where I wanted to do business at. But it works anywhere. Hey, if it could work in South Central and me just door knocking 3 hours a day. I mean, I got robbed, I got held up at gunpoint with the client as well. A lot of stuff happened to me, but it was just like these people that I was saying, hey, I'm not going to ask questions, I'm going to do it like they do it, and it worked, and it worked for me. I think you guys should do the same. You could do it anywhere. You could do it in office. I mean, listings that are in your office around the ones that are getting listed by everybody else. Is there any other questions?
At this moment, there is no questions. Well, actually, we do got one question. Are you still door knocking to this day? Do you still practice that at all?
Yes, not as much, and I'll tell you why. Well, I'll tell you why I still do it. Because I was getting tired when I listed a property that others would come and list the ones around the one that I listed. Now, it's so true. When somebody puts a property up for sale, there's somebody else that's going to list around in the neighborhood. What was happening is, after the third or fourth time when I put up a property for sale and I saw that somebody else listed one of the neighbors, I couldn't get upset at myself for not doing my job. My job was to door knock the just listed properties around there, but I didn't. I didn't call, I didn't door knock. So now what I do is I just make 100 flyers and I go door knock around each one of my listings. And if anybody wants to list, I mean, I got good leverage. Hey, I put this other one up for sale. I want to make sure that I talk to them and I'm the one that lists them instead of my competition coming in and out hustling me, because that's what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
At this moment, we don't got any more questions.
How are we on time?
We are at, give me 1 second.
All right. So whoever asks the door knocking question,
26.
Whoever asks the door knocking question, you want to make sure that you hit door knocking, you hit a bunch of other things. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, get good at something. I'd rather you just focus on one thing, get really good at it, and then just go after with a strategy instead of like trying to do too many things, because that's one of the things I did when I started. I went after too many things, and until I just said, hey, let me just do what these people are doing, and I door knocked, and it worked. So once you start getting good at one thing, you do like maybe 4 or 5 things that you're good at, and you're shaking the tree every single day because you're working not by the seeds you plant, I mean, not by the harvest that you're reaping, but by the seeds you're planting every single day, and you're shaking that tree. Eventually, some apple trees, orange trees, or whatever you're into are going to fall. And they're going to fall, and you got to trust the system, trust the process. And if all these other people that are doing it very well, you can do it as well. So if anything, I want to inspire and get you guys to move to do all these things, and then follow up with the people that you're coming at. I know we didn't have a lot of structure. I apologize with the whole slideshow that we didn't get going, but if there's anybody that wants to reach out to me after the fact with specific things on Top Producer or anything else, I'm more than happy to go over that with them.
Okay, we got a couple more questions as well.
Okay.
I got a question right here that says, what is your projection of the real estate market in the future?
Let me get my crystal ball real quick. No, I'm just kidding. No, nobody has a crystal ball. Come on. I know I used to ask that question a lot, and I ask that question to people that are pretty heavy into this game. And it's interesting how we get a lot of mixed responses, a lot of forecasts that are telling us it's going one way, it's very strong, it's not stopping, it's going up. And then other people that are just running like the sky's falling, right? I'm still doing purchases, I'm still doing investments, I'm still doing flips, I'm still buying income property, and I'm still doing everything. And if I'm just a little more conservative, a little more careful, but I believe that real estate is just the best investment. So I'm going 100% no matter which way. Now, if you function with that fear that, hey, you know, the market's going to turn, you're not going to do anything. There's people that, because of their financial position, should be buying property, should be buying income property. They should be sound, they should be buying. It has a lot to do with the people's specific financial situation. But I think that a correction in the market is going to come. And that's why we have to be ready. When you talk to clients, you got to make sure that you're giving them facts and the data that they need to make their decision, and have them not feel, and you transmit that feeling of like uncertainty of the market. You got to be careful of that, because everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but they're not entitled to their facts. And if people are making a decision based on the facts, that's how you should direct them. But the correction, I don't think is going to be as bad as the last one. There's a lot of loans that were given to people that should never have had loans. The banks are not doing that this time, and there's a lot of things that the economy is doing the right way. But the correction, you can't ignore the fact that in the history of real estate, we're pretty much due from 2006 to now, on the 10-year mark. 2007 to 17 is 10 years, so I think we're due for the correction. And if you do things right, that's why I showed that slide earlier that we kind of sped through with that guy being scared and the market going down. You gotta be able to adjust what you do so that you bring value to your clients and the database that you're just nurturing. You bring value to them so that if they have any questions, if they need any direction, they short sell, they modify, or they buy in a certain market, you got to make sure that you direct them the way you should be. And you do that by educating yourself with the market stats. In our office, we focus on the stats every single week. Hey, this week, this is what happened. These are the numbers. In this city, in this other city, this is what's going on. You got to look at your numbers and kind of ignore all the naysayers and people that are just out there talking about the negative things. That's a good question. It's a very valid question, but at the same time, don't let that blind you from all the stuff that's being done in our market today. All right?
Yes. I just want to let you know that's a great answer. We do have another question. How do you feel about open houses? Some people love them and some people hate them. This is a question from Asus. He says, how do you feel about it? Do you get good leads from them?
I don't do a lot of open houses myself. It's very seldom I'll do an open house. But I tell you what I did when I did do them. I took my database, and while I was there, because there's open houses that you do, especially now if a listing's overpriced, if it's not that great of a property, you can sit, excuse me, you can sit at an open house for 4 or 5 hours and not have anybody show up. But to me, that was 4 or 5 hours of prospecting and calls that I was doing. So people view open houses like, oh man, that's very unproductive. To me, that was my office for the day. And that's what I want to go do while I was there. So if 2 people showed up, I was ready for them. But if nobody showed up, I was still productive. So the people, if you ain't got nothing to do, I got to keep it. If you don't have anything to do, a little ghetto comes out sometimes. If you don't have anything to do, then you should do open houses, because some of the top producers in our office, they get their stuff from open houses. And there's people that walk in that they get listings from and they get business from. You can't ignore that being another good avenue. So for those of you that you want to focus on that niche, hey, just drive around anywhere. In the weekends right now, there's open houses everywhere. They're not doing it if they don't work. They work. So I'm focused on getting somebody on my team right now, and that's what they're going to be doing. And we want to make sure that we have the proper follow-up system from the people that do go, in addition to being productive while we're at the open house as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I feel about open houses.
Great answer. We do have another question.
Yeah.
Do you think Zillow and similar websites will replace the realtors? That's a question from Kevin.
Yes. So we have another 6 months to work hard, and then we should all go find something else to do. No, I'm just kidding. Like, the competition's been there, and just like all these other sites, Expedia, they took out the traveling agents. That's what they're trying to do, and if they bring more value than we do, then that's what's going to happen to us. They've been talking about that for a very long time. They just now are growing, so even more of a reason for you guys to bring value to the people that you work with, so that these people aren't competing with you. I'll tell you the people that I'm competing with, the people that I work with, I come in and I want to make sure that I bring a lot more value than those people that are offering that they're selling their homes at 1%. I saw an article on the LA Times. There's Zillow, Redfin, there's a couple of other people that are coming in and offering these people a 1% selling commission, and that's it. And if they have the systems in place, and they talk to you and they look at their system, and for a 5% difference or a 4% difference, you're not showing them the value as to why they should work with you, and they're going to go work with them. A sale is going to happen. You're going to sell them on why you're worth the commission, or they're going to sell them on why they should only pay 1%. That's how I'm changing my game, to make sure that I prove to them that I'm worth that difference. Remember, it's just like Nordstrom. Nordstrom's not the cheapest, but why do people keep on shopping there? It's that experience that they get. There's a lot of clients that are very difficult to deal with. They're not going to be able to handle those type of clients. Do you have the systems, and do you bring the value, and do you bring the experience to them for your worth, for your 5 or 6%? That's what we got to focus on, instead of functioning out of fear that these people are going to come and take the business. It's probably business we never had to begin with, because we're not functioning like them. So we gotta admit that there's enough to go around. There's a lot of business out there. Are we going out and capturing what's available to us? And that's what we got to focus on. Continue to doing webinar like these and getting the heavy hitters to come in. What was the next guy that's coming up?
Roman Meza.
Yeah, Roman Meza. All these guys that are coming in, always focus on what they say. They have proven results. We got to focus on improving ourselves, which is why I see so much value in this and why I agreed to come in and help everybody else out. And we're going to help each other. I'm going to learn off of this as well. So I'm excited. And I think everybody should be, instead of just fearful of what these guys are going to come in. There's more of us than there is of them. Come on, guys. We got to do something. Is there any other questions?
Yes, we do have a question. I think this is more like what do you think's going to make you become the #1 agent? But he says, how are you going to become the #1 agent at DAOR?
Oh, at DAOR? Well, that's a good question. I focus on improving my systems every single day, but I can't ignore the fact that these millennials that are coming in and doing things a little bit different, I got to be receptive to that, so that these young, new and improved models that are coming on, I got to pay attention to what they're doing. I got to pay attention to what the veteranos in the business are doing, and making sure I have the systems in place to run my business efficiently and run it like a business, which is what it's an ongoing just system building thing that I've been going through for a long time, and it's not perfect. I have a lot of work to do. I have my administrative assistant, which was my wife. Well, my wife currently is my wife. We had a baby, so she stopped working with me, and then I had a buyer's agent. Now I'm on my own, and I just like, hey, I got to keep on hustling, keep on knocking out the deals, and going after what has my name on it. Yeah, but I gotta always be improving, just like all of you. We all have to be improving our systems.
Okay. Another question. Do you have an assistant right now? And if you do have an assistant, how early do you recommend getting an assistant for your business?
I don't have an assistant right now. It's just myself. I'm looking for an assistant, and what I recommend. And there's people that break off, and I mean, there's team buildings. People that shouldn't even be teams. There's people that hire an assistant that shouldn't have an assistant. I do a lot more. So I'm doing, like I said at the beginning, there's flips, there's construction, there's rental properties. There's a lot of stuff that my assistant did before that I'm looking for. So it's a little different. Even though at my production I think I should have one, but I've seen people on panels that are Tom and Mike Ferry, that they say between 30, 35 deals, somebody should really focus on getting an assistant. You should have a transaction coordinator, that's for sure, because there's that saying, if you don't have an assistant, then you are one. I think the paperwork that we can get caught up on, we shouldn't really be doing. Administrative work, I think we should have a TC, and I think a lot of offices have that available to them where they're not doing the TC work. Now, everything else, then when you get to that point, you should be able to incorporate an actual assistant. Is there any other questions?
Give me a couple seconds just to check. So it looks like at this time, we don't have any more questions, but we can give them a couple more seconds if you want, or maybe just a minute more.
Give them a minute. Give them a full minute. Natalie, do you have any questions? No. All right, so maybe I'll just go into it. We really went off subject, but some of the things I do when we close, I talked about the follow-up plans that I have. So one of the things I just did with somebody that I sold them a home, there's this little key that I get at Home Depot, and it's like a now shaped key, and it's to shut off your gas, your water meter in case of earthquake, which we're due for. So I go and I drop them off. I focus on having that as a Popeye, and I show them how they can use it in case of emergency. Shut this off, shut your gas meter off, shut your water meter off, and it comes with a little lever to pick up that heavy piece of concrete off the water meter, and then you shut it off that way, because in case of emergency, they're scrambling and they don't know what to do. So they would appreciate that. That's a little piece of bringing them value. Make sure you understand there's different tax, what's that supplementary tax bill? Make sure you explain that to them so that there's no surprises to them, all the stuff that they get in the mail after. If you direct them and talk to them and tell them, hey, this right here is what you're going to receive, and this is why. And when they get it, they'll understand it, because a lot of people, I'm telling you, they get upset when they get their supplementary tax bill after they buy, and they weren't told about it. The lender a lot of times doesn't explain it to them. But if you as their agent explain it to them, I have this whole email that I sent them, and they don't read it most of the time, but I call them and say, hey, remember, we talked about this, so that you're not surprised. You send that bill and it's a one-time thing. There's things like that that I just continuously come in and make sure that they renew, their hazard insurance, their home protection insurance. When you call them for their anniversary, you're reminding them of stuff like that. So besides that, if you run out of a lot of things to tell them, because after your follow-ups every quarter, like to my database, people that I did business with, you can always just pick a recent sale. Oh, did you know on your street this property sold and now your value's this much? Maybe now you can get rid of your PMI. People that I close that have PMI, I have a little alert, and that's a topic of conversation that I talk to them with. Did another question come in?
Yes, we do have another question.
Yeah, so as long as you focus on, there's title reps and there's a lot of affiliates in our business that are consistently coming and bringing us, hey, here's a topic, here's another topic, here's an update. There was just an update about guest houses and how now you're able to build those guest houses, whereas before you wouldn't in a lot of areas. Do your past clients and all the people that you sold homes to know that about lots that I can't remember if they had to be over 6,000 or something like that. Any major changes, you got to be like the go-to guy that lets them know before I let them know, or somebody else, because then you start continuing to gain credibility, you gain trust, and they see you. Even if people don't do business with you, your consistency, they'll be like, hey, this guy, his real estate game is on point. When we need to do business, I trust that he's going to handle my real estate in the best way possible, because he's shown me in the last year and a half that he keeps in touch with me and he continues to bring value. So you think somebody's going to just knock on their door or call them and they're going to do business with them? No, they're probably going to know about a property and go in and call you because they feel they have a relationship with you. And people do business with people they like and they trust. So make sure they like you too, okay? Mm-hmm. What was the question?
Okay. So this is a question regarding new agents. They asked, what would you do today if you were a new agent? How would you go about doing your business?
I'm not sure if you heard, who's that?
This is going to be Joe.
Joe. So I don't know if you heard what I said about door knocking with Tony and Isabel Gutierrez, that I pretty much aligned myself with somebody that was doing, they sold over, their commissions were over $1 million. So I attached to them and I was like, I'm going to do exactly what they do. I'm not going to ask questions. I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to do exactly what they do. So I would say wherever you are, just go to the highest producing agent in the office. It's happened to me. If they don't cooperate, if they don't share with you, just go to the next one and then just emulate what they do. I'm sure the office has a structure, whether it be door knocking, cold calling, or going after, you can go after a lot of stuff between attorneys, probates, a lot of different avenues of business. But the money that you can get today, if we're going to talk about, we're going to go out and not do the hunter thing, do the hunter thing right now, is cold calling, open houses, door knocking. I would definitely make sure I'm engaged in one of those income producing activities for the first part of the day. Go to lunch, follow up, don't get caught up in all the distractions and time wasters in the office, and then follow up. And if you don't have anything to do after that, no appointments, then you go do it again to make sure that all this potential business that you could be doing, that we're reminded of every single week, and all these listings and sales that come up, even though the market is as bad as they say and limited inventory, we look at the numbers every single week, all these listings, all these sales. Somebody's doing them. We got to go figure out how it's being done and go do them. So for the new person, don't make it too complicated. Just engage in those 3 activities and make sure you reach out. There's a list that I have with all the categories that I go after, but Mike Ferry did a really good job of breaking it down in one of the superstar retreats that he did, and I believe he has it on his website. I can't remember what it's called, but if you go on Mike Ferry's website.
Oh, the tapping's kind of making the camera move a little bit.
If you go on Mike Ferry's website, he has like all the different categories of the people that you should be going after to do business with. But that's your center of influence. Whether it be the guy that owns the cleaners that you go to, your softball coach, anybody. It just has everybody listed there, and it gives you good ideas of everybody to go after. Meanwhile, you're out there hunting, you're farming that list. If you want that list and you can't find it on Mike Ferry's site, then come to me. I have one that I did, and then I added to. I put my tax guy on there. I put the guy that cuts my hair on there. Everybody's a prospect, and you got to always focus on. Where's my badge? I'm slipping, man. All right, my badge right here, my C21 badge. Because if you don't have a badge on, I got these certain deals were attributed to having a badge, and we have polos with our company on it. You can't be a secret agent. Let everybody know what you do. The places I frequent to go eat at, the waitress, everywhere. You gotta consistently be like, hey, thank you for your good service. If you ever want good service with real estate, here's my card. So you could do that in so many different ways. Some of you go to clubs a lot. Talk to the guys at the door or something, you know. Just always be prospecting. Always be contributing. I know my buddy over there at Excellence is always be closing. Always be closing. To me, it's always be contributing. One of my good friends, David Bravo, is I love the question he asks, senior and junior. Great title reps. They're like, how can I make your life easier? I love that question. How can I make your real estate life easier? What can I do to help you? Not give me referrals, always give me. Always be contributing. If we change our focus to that, we're always bringing value to them. And then when they have something to do with real estate or referral, then it just comes back to you tenfold. I guarantee you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Yeah.
So we are a little bit over time. Did you want to continue going into your PowerPoint, or did you want to finish it with the questions that we have? We still got a couple more.
No, we veered off, which is a good thing, because the PowerPoint wasn't that great. Sorry, guys, but yeah, let's go into that. Let's go into the questions.
So we could just finish off here with the last questions, and then we'll go ahead and end the presentation in a couple minutes.
For sure.
Whenever we're done.
This is a man-sized drink, by the way.
Okay. So the next question is, how do you start your day and how do you finish your day? So what's a typical work day for you? Like, what's your schedule? Is it consistent, or do you change it daily? How do you go about your daily business?
Yeah, and it's very important to have a schedule. But more importantly, it's very important to have somebody that's going to hold you accountable to stay on the schedule. Okay, let's focus on that before we get into how we're going to structure in the time slots and everything. It's not that complicated. It's very simple. I have a lot of accountability partners on just getting to the office. That's the hard part. Just get to the office. If I'm at the office past 8 a.m., I get penalized with my buddy Ed from the office. I got to pay him $40. A bunch of other agents, it's coffee, it's lunch, it's a bunch of other things. So I got to make sure that keeps me on my toes. But before that, I do go to the gym. Do you even lift?
Yeah, I do work out sometimes.
All right, good, good. So because I had a kid not too long ago, I'm going to get back into it. But before I had the kid, I would go to the gym. I'd be there at 5 in the morning. By the time I got out, which was between 6:20, 6:30, go home, get ready, have breakfast, be at the office at 8. There shouldn't be a reason, unless you're dropping off kids at school, that you get to the office past 8. Hey, when I had my civil engineering position job at the county, I always had to be there at 6:45, and I somehow managed to just conform to always being there and getting a lot of stuff done in the morning. If we as real estate agents were required to be at the office a lot earlier, we would be more productive. But it's like a little bit of a ghost town so early in the morning, but that's when business is done. So by 8, I'm at the office, and I do my follow-up between 8 to 9:30. Between follow-up, all the calls I need to make in regards to the projects that I have going. By the way, if anybody has some investment opportunities, any properties that could be purchased and flipped, anything with construction, send it my way. I do that as well. So if there's anything that you have between the activities that I talked about that you want to put in that first part, it's got to be income producing activities, like the book Eat the Frog First, right? You get the stuff that you don't want to do out of the way so that you can move on to all your other stuff. But if you're not prospecting, if you're not calling expireds, door knocking, and cold calling in the first part of your day, chances are you're not going to do it the other part of the day. So no matter how you structure it, make sure you do that first. Then you have a light lunch and you come back. You got to be careful of those 2-hour lunches that these agents take. Come back, and then if I don't have any appointments that I go on, I immediately revert back to the prospecting, the nurturing of the database, and improving in the systems. But I got this from a good friend of mine, Ramon, that he focuses on working on his business, not in his business, on Sundays or Saturdays in the morning, and we do that, and that works out for me, so that I'm not doing like my weekly stuff, and I put that in place of the stuff that I should be doing to prospect. So the rest of the day, it's either in appointments, negotiating contracts, or doing the prospecting again. Yeah.
Okay.
And that'll run till 5.
Okay, so we got a couple more questions.
Yeah.
So you say that having somebody hold you accountable is very important.
Yeah.
So in a way, would you say like it's important to have like a leader or maybe a mentor in your life? Or what do you think about that? Should you find a mentor or a leader, someone who's going to guide you? Did you do that when you first started, or how did you go about doing that?
I was very shy, believe it or not. I still am shy. Nellie doesn't believe me, but I am. I'm very shy, so I don't I don't approach people a lot, but at the same time, I see the value in that. I didn't do it, and I suffered the consequences of that, but you got to find somebody that's going to hold you accountable. My accountability partners, I tell them, hey, I hate to do this, man, but you got to pay me the penalty. I'm doing it for you. I really see the value in really penalizing them and collecting my coffees and my lunches and my money so that to keep them on track. And it's very interesting how just a coffee or $5 or whatever it is, it really keeps them on their toes. And I purposely do like a $40 penalty if I show up late to the office. I purposely do that so it'll hurt. But it could be $5, it could be anything. But yeah, you should have a mentor. It could be the manager at your office. It could be the broker. It could be somebody else that's doing better than you. In my office, I noticed that there's little groups that hold each other accountable. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I used to be part of more groups, but at the same time, before I left a little bit because of the birth of my child, I had 15 accountability partners. Out of those 15, I stepped away and said, hey, I'm not going to check in for a while. I'm taking a month and a half to 2 months off. And what I did is I didn't check in with them anymore. I came back. None of them were accountable to anybody. Only like two were. So it's interesting how they weren't getting at the office until 2 hours later. They weren't as productive, and they recognized, damn, I fell off, and there goes having to create the habit again. And it's hard. It's not easy. But stick to somebody that's not going to fail on you. They're not going to give up. It's like a gym partner. You got to make sure you talk to somebody and commit to somebody that you both aren't going to give up on each other. Right?
Yes, that's a great answer.
What else?
We'll do 2 more questions. Mm-hmm. We have a question. It says, personally, which income-producing activities do you think has the greatest return on investment? Do you think it's door knocking, open houses, cold calling, or calling experts? Expireds, yeah.
Is that the full question?
Yes, that's the question.
It's calling, hands down. However, there's people that do a lot of calls, maybe might not be as skillful, that they don't do as good as the door knockers. You got to pay attention where people are getting their business from. There's some people that are really good at expires, and they got a listings. Are they selling them? Are they good at pricing them? You got to look at who's doing the deals, who's closing the deals, where the business is coming from. Ask them. Hopefully you can see. A lot of times they'll share with you. But think about this. How many doors can you knock on versus how many calls can you make in a 3-hour period? You can make a lot more phone calls. Now, if you're making those calls during those 3 hours and you don't feel you're as skilled and you feel you're better in person, one of my buddies at the office, Carlos, he's like, man, I do a lot better face-to-face. He's just that kind of person. He's like a touchy guy. He's always like, hey, listen, I don't know if he touches those people he's door knocking, but it just works for him. Now, when he gets on the phone, little, he doesn't make the connection like he feels he makes door knocking. So to each his own. If you feel that that will get you better results, and do that. But what I think the highest producing one for me, and I make a lot more contacts when I'm calling. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, then you get a dialer that's going in and making the just dialing for you. You can do a single dialer, a triple dialer. Look up mojo.com, or contact me. We get a little bit of referral for sending you, and then I'll show you what I do, how I do it, and then I'll get you set up on the account with them at the right pricing. Make sure you're not getting overcharged for that. But that's like next level stuff. Get your scripts right so you don't get tongue tied. So when you're making the calls and you're doing it at that speed, then you're just like on it, and you'll see the efficiency there will be so much more than, I mean, there's only so fast you can walk and so many doors you can knock on, and you'll quickly see the numbers. If you focus on the contacts that you have to make every single day, you can make them so much quicker phone calls. You just don't have a tan in this nice summer, though. You got to give that up.
Okay. Let's do one more question. We have a couple more.
One more.
We'll do one more.
Are you going to choose it?
Let's see. I'll choose. Give me 1 second. I think we can go off this one better.
Thank you guys for the great questions. I see we had a good turnout.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys being involved.
Okay.
Mark Anthony wants to know if you could be his mentor.
Mark Anthony.
So we got one question. Let's do this one. What would you suggest to a realtor who has hit a wall RE production? How do I get back on track?
Well, that's a good question. I kind of felt that. I was sharing with one of my friends that I took 2 months off, and I got back to the office, and I was just feeling overwhelmed, and I'm just like, damn, there's so many things to do. And I felt not necessarily a wall, but it's like, hey, it takes a little bit when you get away, when you're on vacation, when something happens in your life and you got to jump back in, that'll happen. So everybody I think is vulnerable to that. So it could be the office and the environment that you're at. Sometimes it's mental, where you got to think bigger, but there's nothing like just compartmentalizing your time and realizing, all right, here's everything I have to do during the day, and this is what I absolutely have to do today. Let me get that done, and then move on to the next thing, and then move on to the next thing. But if you don't schedule it out and compartmentalize it, you'll feel that sense of overwhelm. The wall he's talking about hitting, is it like income or?
Let me check that out.
Just ask the question again.
Okay, let me just get the questions out again. Give me 1 second.
Because I'm part of a couple of mastermind groups that I feel really help me to think bigger and to realize, hey, there's a lot of things that I'm not doing. Maybe the things I am doing, they could be done in a better way. They could be done in the way that they're doing it. And I'm like, wow, if I would have just done that a while back ago, I would have been more productive. And they teach me that more production is possible. And a lot of times we're playing small just because we're not exposed to those top producers. It could be, I mean, just because you're in a particular office, like I'm in a pretty big office, and there's a lot of producers there, and there's this Judy Raymer that just joined in, and she just like dwarfed all of our productions. Like she just took the top 8 and produced more than all of us combined together. So she really expanded, like, wow, she's a heavy hitter. We're all playing small. Look at what this lady's doing, and she's only a team of 3. That's crazy. That I appreciated that. I appreciated her coming into our company and realized, hey, there's no reason why we can't be doing 10 or 12 deals every single month, and she's just killing it. So, in the last couple of years, I was the top guy there, but it really like lit a fire under me to know that, especially not that being a woman has anything to do with it, but that she just comes in and just like slaps us all around. I just welcome friendly competition like that. So I appreciate it. Maybe you should do the same. Don't go moving offices and say Luther told me to, but interact with the agents. Judy was always available. Man, why didn't I go reach out to her? You'd be surprised, the people that are doing a little better financially, you'd be surprised how welcoming they are sometimes, because it's happened to me, and it's me with that story that I make up. Like they might not want to share and talk to me. Okay. Anybody that comes to me, I'm always available to them.
Okay. So it looks like we're over time, and we're going to start closing now. I'm just going to introduce the next webinar.
Okay.
So give me 1 second.
How you doing, man?
So the next webinar is going to be on September 14th, 2017 from 9 a.m. to 9:40. You can register at the following link. It's right here on the screen. And the next webinar series is going to be with Roman Meza. And he's a realtor, top producer with Century 21, A Better Service. His title is going to be How to Prospect and Thrive in Any Market. So join us on that day, and we're looking forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Roman Meza is a man. Make sure you're all logged on. I know I will be. All right, guys. I hope you guys got something of value, and we certainly appreciate all of you being involved and asking great questions that everybody will benefit from. All right. Thank you guys for having me, and adios.
All right. We're going to end it now.